I'll call the meeting to order at 6:02.
What happened to the people? On the
Oh,
screen?
Joanne's set up to,
Okay.
Here's Kelly.
You're
Recording in
fast.
progress.
I'm pulling my cankles and I'm late. Can't move too quickly. Is it okay if I sit here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have enough space?
Yes. Where are we for Rennick? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right into that. Next agenda item is correspondence, visitors, and public comments. And do we have anybody online?
We have Yashua, Justina, Joyce, and Rusty.
All right, seeing none. The next agenda item is the agenda review. Which I don't think there's anything. So I'm good. You're good. All right, perfect. Next agenda item is the approval of the minutes from January 9th, 2024.
I'll make motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Peter.
Second.
Thank you, Devin. Any discussion, comments, or changes to be made? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 8-0. And moving right along, we've got our administrative reports. We've got Franklin. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Joyce?
Rusty, because she's not connected, they can't hear us.
right, so. She should be able, Joyce should be able to hear you.
Joyce, can you hear us? Just nod.
It's really breaking up. I had just emailed Rusty because the sound is just really breaking up. Does somebody have a question? I couldn't hear.
No, we're just getting to you, but I wasn't sure if you were able to hear us. And if I open up the microphone, the volume on my computer, it gets to be a terrible echo.
Yeah, it's just kind of in and out. I think Yeshua was hearing the same thing. And Yeshua can't hear anything now.
So sorry, Joanne. Just trying to make things difficult.
Congratulations on the $1,000 that you presented to the food bank, Joyce.
Oh, that was great. That was all the kids and parents and staff, and it was wonderful. The $1,000 and 16 boxes of food. They said we're still one of their biggest donors, which is pretty incredible for a school and community our size. So that was really nice.
Yeah. Thought it was great.
Jen, I have a question for Joyce.
Sure.
Joyce?
Yeah, is that Dawn?
It's Don, yes. With the cold weather and the construction going on, are you able to keep your main building warm enough?
Yeah, Steven's been doing a great job with that, and people are very good kind of letting him know if it's getting a little cool. Of course, these temperatures we've had the last few days, it's been a little cold, but he's just cranked it up and it's been fine. And they're getting that, closed in. They just put the windows in on the playground side the other day. So that's gotten closed in now. So it's really coming along.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. We don't want to be cold. I can't learn when I'm cold.
That's right. Cold and hungry, right?
That's right. Can't be either of those.
Anything else for Joyce?
So, Jen?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Hi Joyce, it's Joanne. Hi,
Joanne.
Hi. So I was reading through and I saw kindergarten was going to be full days. did you want to talk about that change with us a little bit, or?
It's pretty much what I put in the report, that we just really don't feel it's really a choice any longer. The increasing complexities of that midday transportation is making it harder for kids to attend. It's making us harder for us to balance the two sections. And it's not because, parents don't want to help in terms of the balancing. I've had parents that a few years ago could switch the sections the kids were in so we could balance everything out, and now they just can't. It might be that the daycare that they're in is farther away. It might be that, again, daycare regulations now in terms of transporting, it's just gotten harder and harder. And so we are going to go to a full day in the fall. We're sending a letter to parents in the next couple of days, to the parents of the 4-year-olds, that's what we'll be doing. So yes, it'll be a big class for our first one, but especially now we've got some extra space. We're hoping to do maybe some creative scheduling at different times of the day, and using some of that space to be able to keep the numbers small for some of those core content areas, because it will be a big group to start with.
Does this mean we're adding staff? They're just gonna absorb?
We're hoping that we'll be able to kind of shuffle around existing staff, but it's really going to depend on the numbers and on the needs.
If we had to,
Hopefully
it
not.
would be a paraeducator part-time.
Right, because we have somebody now that's half-time.
Is everybody else full day?
Oh, yes.
That's what I thought.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Yeshua? For Highgate?
Comment is, Chris, I still enjoy reading the Wednesday weekly. Brings back some memories.
Yasha, how's your school as far as the temperature and the heating system?
Always a great question. I'd love to comment on that.
It feels great. I think depending on where you are, I think one of the coolest things is that, there is a little bit of a differential of what the temperature you can set in each classroom. We kind of set them like generally where you want them, but they can go, up or down a few degrees. But yeah, certainly have no complaints. I don't think anyone walking around in jackets, even though I do like to keep my office a bit colder, and some central office people might have been a little cold today. But other than that, that's by choice, not by, some capacity not working. But thanks for asking. It really has been good.
Good, glad to hear it.
Yeshua, I love seeing the pictures of the, whenever you guys do Spirit Week and they get posted. I see them when I scroll through Facebook or when my granddaughter's getting ready for it. I like Spirit Week. I think gives kids something to look forward to, and it's fun for them, and a little bit of a kind of a break from the everyday same school thing. So I hope you continue.
We loved
Yeah.
on Hat Day, the fact that it was the Whoville Day there for the Grinch, and so many kids had the Cindy Lou Who hair going way up, and there was a lot of time and care that went into the creativity. It was great. It was great to see. They were very proud and ready
Oh
for
yeah,
stuff.
love it. And coordinate. They do. Some of them dress as twins and coordinate, and it's huge. I just like seeing that in the schools. All right. Thank you, Yeshua. And for Chris and Swanton, anybody have anything they want to
Is the Babcock school staying warm enough? We've asked about everything else.
Yes, it's all right. I mean, if you have a classroom next to a recess door that's open for 10 minutes when kids are pouring in, you're gonna get cold for a hot second, but, same as Yashua, every room is different, everybody likes a different temperature, so we're doing good, we're hanging in there.
Looks like all the kids enjoyed getting the new hat.
I have a question just in general. I know that at least one of these reports mentioned how, you know, the colder weather and it's cold and flu season, and that's of course impacting staffing, and everybody sort of having to juggle. I guess I would just like to know how everyone is feeling about that. Do you feel like you have the support that you need? Is there anything that we can do to help in those instances?
Yeah, it can be hard. We have a lot of people that are out and with a lot of illness, and that's hard. I think the hardest part of that is that with the constant kind of pulling of para-educators and pulling of support staff, it's hard for folks to settle. It's hard to settle into a routine. It's hard to have enough supervision, and so there's kind of a constant, you know, every morning kind of war room conversation about who's doing what today and how's that working out. Luckily, folks are pretty flexible and, you know, willing to hop in and do those things, but it's not without its challenges for sure. Yeah, I don't think that there's much else that can be done about it. We have a great deal of support in filling the positions that we need to fill, that they're just difficult to fill. So. I think to the extent that we can constantly appreciate the people that are being asked to be so flexible is a real positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I'll take a second right now to give a shout out to Dawn Tessier, and I know every school has their own sub-coordinator, but I will say when she leaves, the coverage for the next day can be all tied up nice and tight, and then if 2 teachers are out the next day and a training, it's kind of a constant game of setting up sub-coverage and then erasing the whiteboard and starting all over again, because each day new call-outs kind of shift the triage a little bit, so it can be hard to watch sometimes. Sometimes we just laugh because it can fall apart so quickly, and that's all you can do. But just like Franklin has somebody and MVU and Highgate, those sub-coordinators work extra hard January, February.
Have there been any like noticeable impacts on classrooms or anything at this point, or it's so far it's been difficult, but everybody's still getting covered?
Everybody's getting covered. Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Anything else for any of the principals, vice principal? Excuse me. All right, so seeing none, we have a Swanton Cliff Grant by Joanne presentation.
Thank you, principals. You're gonna disappear from the screen now.
Sorry about that. While we get set up, I just want to say thank you for allowing me this time. Anyone who knows me know that I talk too much, so I did create a video because I had a limit. Chris gave me a limit. And then rather than me talking, I want you to see the impact that it's having on our students. And I think that that will be the best selling point that I can give you.
While Joanne's getting this kind of set up, I would love to just preface this whole piece with there's tons and tons of really, really wonderful, rich resources that this has brought into our school. And at the same time, this has been a lot of work by Joanne. And Other folks in our buildings for sure as well, but Joanne has really taken the lead on this and put in a tremendous amount of time and effort and coordination. So she really deserves a lot of credit for bringing this resource to us.
It's for the community is really what it is. So just a quick background, it's what we are one of 12 schools across Vermont, New Hampshire to receive this award. It's $25,000 worth of literacy programming and books for the kids. I will show you, we have about 2 minutes when I'm done. If you have a question or some questions, we can do that then. The kids. I am not gonna cry. That's my favorite part of that. Questions? Comments? I noticed I didn't edit my video because I had a little vacation for my birthday and I forgot to finish it, so I didn't get a chance to edit out the duplicates. I apologize for that, but the smiles are still worth every single duplicate, so.
What did you have to do to submit? Was
So,
there-
good question. So we looked at the data. You had to have a certain level of poverty, let's say. I don't want to say it like that, but certain number of free and reduced lunch. And then you had to look at the data for the kids and see where their grades fell. And for us, because our grades 4 through 6 were very much victims of COVID, their formative assessment years of foundation, they really lost that. And so the data showed that those were the ages, because the grant only covered 250 students. So, and it wasn't me that made the decision, the coaches looked at all of our data and said that. And so, because we're in this campus, this building, I include, 3rd grade gets included a lot. Unfortunately, the other building, I can't do anything about that. And maybe the next time around, you know, we can apply again in 5 years. But whenever we can, 3rd grade, they're getting, I wrote an additional grant. John Gilmore, who does music, will be coming to work with the 3rd and 4th graders. I wrote a grant with Jen Mitchell. We will be doing a westward expansion unit with interactive storybooks with 5th grade. So we have a few extra things on top of this grant because we had some mini grant opportunities as well. And next year we'll have to write another grant as a momentum to continue the movement forward, and that's typically $1,000. At least the last time I got it, it was in Enosburg. So, any questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Who chooses the books?
The Cliff board of directors, I don't know how many of them, they send us boxes and boxes and boxes. We put the books out and the kids choose their own. Yeah.
I guess, like, to follow up on that, having been involved with book fairs, sometimes a young child will choose an inappropriate book because they like the cover. When they arrive here, is there a team to make sure that if you're a 4th grader with reading difficulties, you aren't pulling something that's written at the school?
2 parts to that. First, I don't want to censor what they want to read. I always say to the child, are you going to be able to read this alone, honey? Because this might be kind of hard for you. If you're going to read it with someone, then that's fine. But if you're not going to read it with someone, you might want to choose something different. The last time I pulled out, so we had the family literacy night, and they gave us books from ages 0 to 18. And so there were some young adult novels in there, and I pulled them because that's me censoring. We do not have young adults in this school as far as I'm concerned. To me, that's 7th and up. And some might argue it's 6th grade, but because I didn't know the content of every single book, I erred on the side of caution and just removed them.
I like your answer, if you're not going to read it with somebody. That's a nice way of
That's the
saying,
way it
you know,
goes, I mean,
share it. That's a
I don't
good-
want to see a child struggle. It's the same thing with choosing library books. I don't want to see them struggle. I want them to enjoy it. And I always say, get a book that's good for you and get a book that's a little hard, because if you stick where it's good, you're never going to grow. Vocabulary won't increase, so. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And my personal favorite anecdote, the Big Cliff Grant, was having all kinds of students who know because of the summer reading challenge and other things that I do, and Laura knows how much I love to give books away, come up to me in the hallway and thank me for these books, and I was a little confused by that for a while until I realized that when a bunch of them started calling me Cliff, and they thought that was what my first name was. So.
I love that story.
Yep.
It's pretty exciting having the authors come in. It sounded like some authors were coming in.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, just for the kids to be able to listen to someone's story, because you always think when you start something that you can't do it, and that's not true. Everyone starts somewhere. So when you see someone like Jason Chen, who is now a Caldecott winner, by the way, for his illustrations, when I was in Enosburg, I met him, and he came in to work with the kids, and it's all narrative nonfiction. So it's all research-based, and he talks about how he travels around to find the information and how he reads and reads and reads. And so for the kids to hear that it took him, it was 46 or 48 edits before he got his book Redwood out, the kids are like, oh, and that's a true story. Jason Chen told us that himself, and he will be here in April. So, and if anyone noticed, we have a Read to Me contract. It's an opportunity to get an additional author or illustrator visit. and we need to get 80% of our student population, and so far we're not there. So I need to run something else fun to get them there. We had a Beanie Baby initiative right before whatever vacation, it must be Christmas, yeah, it's Christmas. And so now I'm gonna have to do like, I don't know, pizza party or ice cream party or something to get those families to read 20 minutes twice a week, and that's it, 80%, and we get another author. So I'm working on it, I'm not giving up on that one. Anyhow.
What was the total amount of the grant?
25,000.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
well,
just,
25,000 plus an additional 2 that we've already
Wow.
gotten, and then next year will be 1,000.
That's
So
wonderful.
it's a lot, it's
Yeah.
big.
So in addition, so because we got this partially because of how our students are performing or underperforming in reading, other than doing the book giveaway and this incentive, the 20 minutes twice a week, is there anything else, any additional programming in support of increasing the skills that come out of this?
So what we're doing with our author visits and our illustrator visits and like the Story Keepers program that Natalie Kinsey Warnock, it's giving the teachers additional ideas to enrich how they're teaching it or to add on to how they're teaching it to make it more fun. And I know I was a classroom teacher. I know the curriculum's not always fun. I'm sorry, it's not always fun, but we're trying to come up with ideas to make it more engaging for them. So the different authors and illustrators all have different ideas and approaches, and they share that with us. So
great.
Hopefully that will stick with some. I mean, some will definitely, and some will say, I've done it this way, and we can't change everyone. We can try, but we can't change everyone.
Right.
Some of your authors have been around for a while.
Yeah.
So
do you know Natalie Kinsey Warnock? She's amazing. She came yesterday for the initial presentation to tell the kids what she was going to do, and the stories that she tells are fabulous. It's me. Like I read 2 different of her books this morning to the kids, and she talks about from dawn to dusk what farmers do. And really, it was my childhood. Many of if you're older like me, it's going to be your childhood. The kids have no idea what it's like to tap that tree and then put the spout in there that looks like steel and not a plastic and pipe. And the buckets that you now can't use because they're lead, and kids have no idea. It's just, they're going to learn a lot. I wish you could all be part of Natalie's presentation because she brings in things like fuselage of a plane and just old-time things that they will never see. And I know my 10 minutes is up, I'm sorry. But thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
Joanne.
very much. Have a great night. Hi, Siobhan, do you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to say, I don't know if it's technical difficulties because I'm on Zoom, but I couldn't actually watch the presentation. And just in case you guys don't already do this, I just wanted to request maybe if you could add that presentation to your minutes.
It is, the presentation is shared with Public Access TV, so it will be a part of their video presentation.
Chris, did you have a team of people that worked on organizing this?
Yes, Joanne pulled together a team of folks.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is the budget adoption. First one is budget draft 6.
This should be quick.
Stumbling for words here.
Budget draft 6.
Sorry, Laura's reeling a bit because she got a message about the yield.
Trying not to cry, honestly. So there's some new information coming out that's with the executive committee that the yield, JFO is putting out something that the yield might change to 9,629.
From
What is it?
9140, 9171.
91.4 to
9171 to 9629 because ed spending is down from what they thought, which is completely the opposite of what we've been hearing. And the ed fund, which we did listen to last week when the analysts gave their announcement that the ed fund, the ed fund revenue is higher than anticipated, but honestly, I don't know how to work in this environment. And that's what the executive committee at FASBO is just like, work is going up? You have no idea how the caps will work, like you have no idea how to estimate a tax rate.
I mean, that's a huge shift.
It's huge. That is
like-
unheard of.
That's, well, let's think about where we started, right? Because 3 weeks ago, we were dealing with a $9,400 yield, which then went down to $9,100. The effect of that was about a 3% tax rate increase for every district in the state. So now we're there at a 91, and so this is not official, it's just the...
Apparently, Jeff Francis might be announcing something because he's trying to figure everything out.
So if we move to 96, I mean, quick math off the top of my head here, that's more than 5%. That would be a 5% decrease.
But I don't know what
across the state.
Yeah, I don't know what to believe though.
I mean, that's like whiplash. This stuff's moving all over the place.
And this happened on the 18th, which is the day before that letter came out, which people. So I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
I'm texting Jeff Francis now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Draft 6 that I brought you is exactly like draft 5. And then in the budget workbook, I linked in the last slide some scenarios based on the feedback from the board and the finance committee. I'm not sure it makes sense to go through it, but I'm happy to do whatever you'd like.
What's the very latest day that we have to vote?
Monday.
Is the very latest?
The very latest. That way Laura can probably get everything in, so we would have to meet.
And that was me begging the printer to hold off for ballots, because we ordered almost 7,000 ballots, and everyone orders from the same place.
I mean, this is such a huge change without confirmation. I think you're right. I mean, you haven't prepared anything using that yield. You don't know if it's real.
As we were
sitting here, she got the text message.
I think that's, it's just everyone, I think it's so irresponsible. And I don't know. And I feel really bad for people who have already adopted, because a lot of budgets have already been adopted and there's nothing that they can do.
There's no way that this is gonna do anything for equitability when half of,
Exactly.
some have already, I mean, I think they're better off just to scratch 127 for this year, to be honest. Because how are they gonna, if some budgets boards have already passed their budgets and passed their article, I'm assuming? Or warned their articles. Well, they wouldn't have warned their articles yet,
Yeah.
but some have.
Most have. Last week.
What is that, the 29th? We have to have it done by the 29th?
Really, yes, Monday.
That being the latest, the absolute latest.
The warning date is 30 to 40 days, not include within, no less than 30, no more than 40, opposite of that. Not including town meeting day, but our printer wanted them today at the absolute latest. I begged her until Monday. So the only option would be to, print our own ballots and count them by hand, and that opens up a whole nother can of worms as far as integrity and,
So, yes, Monday.
But officially, nothing has changed in terms of like tax capacity and Act 127 and all that. Officially.
No, but technically, officially, that 9171 means nothing.
So there really is no way to go off of that in terms of a decision making for us.
It means our tax rate will go down.
Well, the cynic in me says they're trying to kick a whole bunch of districts below the 5% cap. So that next year, the yield can float and hit those districts.
It's unethical. I don't know how.
That's what I'm thinking too. Like, if you don't have enough in there.
And I had already said to Julie, the whole thing is so volatile right now that $100 in the yield makes like $1.50 difference on our tax rate. So think about what, $200 or $300 does, and at this point, we have no idea if it's going up or down. And that was before this even at the 9171, I kept sharing with her that the yield is the biggest concern, because if people react to the letter, or they take the warning, they cut spending, is it gonna come up lower, higher, you know, the ed fund, we heard had more revenue, like, so who knows what the yield's gonna be? We've never been in this situation.
So in your opinion, there's nothing to be gained by waiting 2 or 3 or 4 days?
No, well.
I think the opposite, right?
The problem is, we can wait. The information may be no more reliable, and the law has to change. If they're going to change a law, then it's a law that has to be changed. Like, right now, it's all hearsay and people talking and putting out things and, you know, not sure who to believe. But ultimately, if they're going to do something to Act 127 or not, that's a law change or not a law change, and that doesn't happen overnight. But I think they will do something.
But the yield is, you know, whatever they give you for a yield, that, you know.
But no one's gonna announce a yield other than the commissioner's letter. The commissioner's letter on December 1 announced that's required by law. That was the 9,400. The AOE came out and said, we don't think you should use that. We recommend 9,171.
I see.
And that was public. That's the first time the AOE has ever made a statement and actually come out with another number in 13 years I've been here. So all the business managers and superintendents were like, that's reliable, or not reliable, but that's now the recommendation. But that was 2 weeks, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So I just don't know.
And so who's this new number coming from?
Apparently, it was from JFO.
Which is Joint Fiscal Office.
Yeah. On the 18th, but no one had heard it until today. So I don't know if the video came out today, but apparently there's a video dated 1/8 on the JFO site. No one has seen it, and everybody has their ear to the ground, especially this group. Yeah, I just don't know.
So then what would be the advantage of trying to change what we already have built, then, given that we can't rely on any of the information coming out?
You know, and maybe that is the answer. I mean, I talked to Julie about this too. I think the board is just at a place where they have to decide on a budget that is a budget and a spending for long-term weighted ADM that you believe that you can stand up and represent and support, and whether that means roofs or if it means, I don't know.
I wonder, you know, at this moment, I don't think we can have conversations about 5% caps, and if we're close to it or over it or under it, because the yield will continue to shift perhaps with larger swings. We're used to little reconciliation in May when the legislature votes. You know, we can say we want to be comfortably in this zone or that zone. I think that's almost off the table, and I'm saying that in this moment, not process. Right, but because the yield's going up $300 is, or more. It's
$500.
$500.
It's ridiculous.
Is a huge percent change.
Just on the.
And we're always estimating when we talk to the community. We're always estimating, but it's usually something in a window where we have some confidence.
But even with that, with our current budget, would we be over the 5% cap?
So we would go from a 17.9 in the draft you have right in front of you, which has a $8.2 million increase.
Right.
Your tax rate, equalized tax rate, was going to be an increase of 17.9 cents. It would then be an increase of 11.1 cents.
Which is still above 5%.
It's over 5%.
Yeah, it's 8.98.
And how does the letter play into this with the review of budgets for those districts who utilize the 5% cap? I'm assuming that's after, like if it gets adopted, or does that have to be reviewed like before it goes to vote? Do we know?
No, the review happens once you have passed a budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we utilize it and it passes, we're automatically have to.
You're stuck with whatever happens from the review.
Well, if they change the law so that the 5% triggers it.
yes.
Right now, the 5% doesn't trigger a review according to the law. Only
The
those who are above
10%
that
does, yeah.
10%
Right,
per pupil.
but
So
the letter was pretty clear that their
They intend
intention
to.
is to change that.
yes, and then you know, what the review can do, as it's written right now, is cause the district to ignore the cap and have to use the calculated tax rate. So this does lower that risk a bit, because previously it's 8.9% increase. With this new yield number, it would have been a higher.
It was 14.42.
So with the old yield, if they said, no, you don't get the cap, we would have gone up 14%, which is outrageous, obviously, I think, in my opinion, before we talk as a group. This lowers the risk of that. So 8.9 is that penalty, so the extra 3.9%. And so, you know, I'm still thinking about the 5%. I know Julie doesn't want to, but long term, I'm worried about the long-term exposure of this district to higher tax rate increases by continued yield changes in future years. And the volatility we're seeing right now doesn't make me feel any better about that risk. And so, you know, I don't know if that final 8.9 is the right number. I mean, we had a good list of things there, but I think we should talk about that amount. I don't want to forget about the 5. I think we look at what's needed. We may need to get into a review, and so we need to make sure we have a defensible budget that's list of needs. So targeting 5% exactly is probably not a wise strategy if we're really just.
Well, that's the tricky, that's what I meant, now that I don't support, you know, protecting our taxpayers
You
for the
can't go
long
too
term.
close to it.
But it's.
So I'd like to let you know,
Running
the facilities committee did the work to highlight those, you know, the yellow items, right, on the 5-year plan. You pulled a bunch of stuff forward. I'd be curious about maybe starting to look at that. And
Well, before we do that though, I mean, if we pull 1.5 off of that amount, I mean, what does that effectively change?
I can share my screen and I can in all the scenarios that I have, I can change the yield in one click.
Okay.
So it's just, I didn't know if you wanted me to do that.
Yeah.
Please.
And I'm sorry, this has been like,
We were more upbeat earlier.
I'm sorry for my bad attitude.
Through ESSER, we would have a nice,
I need to be able to share my screen.
Did you already change the yield once? Cause I'm like going batty, I'm seeing
Oh, yeah.
things change. No, you've already changed it.
It's live.
Just, yeah, okay.
Julie's gotta make you a copy.
Do you mind? How do I do that?
It's back now to 91 though, right?
Yeah.
It was 96 like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
Google Doc, so you can't change it, only I
No,
can.
right.
What is JFO saying for you?
I'm sorry?
What is JFO saying about the yield?
I don't know, all I'm getting is what they're apparently saying in the video, in their video of their meeting, their emergency meeting, is that it will be estimated to be at 96.29. I have not watched the video, but these are the people with their ear right to the ground, and the people that are connected to the VSA and PESBO
Because
executive.
JFO is highly respected, and I know a lot of people working on it, but when push comes to shove, it's probably only maybe a dozen people in the legislature will make that decision on the money committees, the chairs, and JFO works directly with them on some of the chairs on a daily basis. So JFO says this is what we calculate as the most reasonable outcome or solution. That's probably what we're going to end up with. I would.
Where is it? It's in the board, in the budget workbook, would you like me to use the 9171, or would you like, no, go right to the 9629. Okay. So obviously this is draft 6, so this is the budget you have in front of you. So spending from last year would go up 8.2 million, that's 18.32%. I did change the revenues from your last draft, about 100,000. I'm recalculated all the federal grants, and I think I can still go up about 100,000 even, not kind of mess anything up, or overestimate, I guess I should say. So that's pretty even with last year. Ed spending would be up to 24.27%. Our long-term weighted ADM is frozen, so that's that 3,245, which is up to 379 or 13%. Our spending per long-term weighted ADM would be 13,012, which I will mention because I have to. That is significantly lower. Many of people in the state that have spending who are making comments about other people's spending. So that's an increase of 1,153 or 9.73%. So we're still under that 9.99 spending cap that's in place right now. That's using the yield of the 96.29, gives us that equalized tax rate of $1.35. That's an increase of 11 cents from last year, and that's an increase of 8.98%. If the cap was triggered as it is in law right now, we would only incur 6.2 cents of that, or the 5%. The next scenario is the 5%. I don't know if you want me to go through this one, the ones with the caps, or no, just skip over.
Well, I guess because the total spending on this now would need to be increased.
Right.
Right, by, it looks like 5%, right? It's coming out exactly to 1.24, so that yield change must have been pretty much exactly 5%.
That's interesting. Yes.
Yep, okay, thank you very much.
So I can. I don't know exactly what that number would be though.
It would probably just be 5% over 4, right?
He says.
What do you say?
He says, yes, they said 96 in that January 18th emergency meeting, and he doesn't think it's gonna stay there. It'll probably go down again, but probably not tonight. He's like, you could use the original 94 and split the difference. So that was helpful.
Not helpful.
But it was a confirmation that it's very volatile right now. And so that the board could really be looking at any scenario. But nothing can really be done with confidence when it comes to the yield.
Well, that's really ridiculous.
And again, that was supportive information, but don't quote it.
What's getting lost is budgeting for what your needs are.
Yeah. And what is the definition of needs? Because I think that's going to be subject to interpretation this year. And again, I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but in spending and the way that the ed fund works right now, if you're talking about equity, in my opinion, it is your spending per long-term weighted ADM. That's the fair metric. It's your expenses. I mean, it's your expenses minus your revenues, which everybody has to do, and you're dividing it by the new weighted amount of pupils that you have, and the new weights do make a lot more sense than equalized pupil weights. They're data driven, they are higher for poverty, it's more consistent with what real cost is.
And you mentioned our spending was low. Do we have an anticipated state average on the spending?
Yeah, the state average, I put it in the
120.
12,854. That was, you know,
for this
around December 15th or so when I made that calculation based on the letter.
So draft 6 puts us a hair over that.
Yes.
And with this special joint hearing later this week, do we anticipate that having, like, if Monday is the latest that we have to do something by Monday, and they're having a public hearing on Thursday afternoon, do we have any sense of whether or not that's going to have direct impact on numbers for this? Like, can we wait until Thursday and see what comes of it and then gather on Friday or early Monday?
I mean, we can listen and take away what we can take away and it would probably be the best information we could have until it's, but it doesn't mean anything necessarily, because the law has to be changed. So
Right.
whether or not that happens, but it would be the best information that we could operate under.
What would it take to get the law to change? I mean, how long of a process is that? Because we're saying nothing can, nothing's really going to change unless they change the law, so.
There would be an amendment to the current statute under Act 2027. House would have to pass it, Senate would have to pass it, and then the whole, the joint body would have to pass. Mr. Collins is the expert.
And then it would go to the governor.
And then the governor would have to sign.
I'm gonna tell you, I've seen things happen in 2 days when people really want to move them. Well, what happens is the Speaker of the House gets together with the Senate, says this is what we're gonna do, and the draft, they're getting ready to vote as they're drafting. So, I don't know how much pushback they're getting from organizations. I mean, I know, Laura, you're very active in VASBO, but are your colleagues and their boards really weighing in to the local legislators?
Yes.
So, the nice thing about it's an election year, and anybody who wants to get reelected probably doesn't want to make this too controversial on their voting record. So if they've done it, they may live with it for a year. They have the money to live, I think they have the money to live with it for a year, because the ed fund is pretty flush. If what people I talk to are accurate, it's not a case that we don't necessarily have the money.
They did not anticipate the amount of revenue that they're bringing in.
There is no matter what we do, whether we do it now or we do it 3 days from now, it's still a crapshoot. The question went through my mind was, where are they gonna get all these people to run around to all these schools to see if what you did was above board?
That's a very good question.
There are enough people at Agency of Education to do the work now.
Especially if you meet the cap, then you can't be on the review committee. So if everybody meets the cap, who's gonna be on the review committee?
When are they gonna come in and say, naughty boys and girls, you shouldn't have done that? The law hasn't changed, so you can do it early? So, I don't know.
The only thing, Monday would allow me time to run these numbers and listen again, and
It would help to have some sort of general guidance.
I would feel really uncomfortable making a hasty decision tonight, having just.
Yeah, I would too, they come, give them till Friday, they come home Friday, right?
Yes, and
By Friday noon, you'll know if there's anything's gonna
the
happen.
meeting is at 1 o'clock.
1
I think,
o'clock on Thursday.
Thursday.
It's just asked to submit more tests.
Okay. Because see, they have right now, they have the budget, I'm losing it, but it's a reconciliation of last year's budget with expenses that have occurred that the governor or legislature sees, or some things that they thought they were gonna do, they didn't, so they kind of do a reconciliation. There has to be an attorney there smart enough to change this law as part of the budget reconciliation. I think they have a train to put it on. They don't have to come up with some wild-eyed scheme that gets said, well, this is a reconciliation on it. But I agree with Devin, I would prefer that we get a few days. And it's Thursday, the meeting, you said? I thought that.
It is, and we have been asked to submit as close to a final piece of budget information as possible by noon on Friday.
But I've heard from at least 10 business managers that they will not be meeting that deadline because they will not know, because people are pushing back the board meetings.
We send them the budget number 6, say that's as close as we can get.
But is this gonna disadvantage those that wait as opposed to those that are already adopted?
The disadvantage is really to the people who have already adopted, because they put out a tax rate estimate that means nothing.
Yeah, they're just riding the roller coaster with no opportunity to react.
Maybe they'll end up better than.
Yeah, right. It's 50-50, I suppose.
At least they're not up at night anymore, probably.
Not yet.
And they aren't even talking about the CLA and that impact it's gonna have.
No, we know what that is. I mean, that is what it is.
That's a given.
Yeah.
And that's the piece, is we really, we know that with the CLA, our communities are gonna be paying more on their education tax. That has nothing to do with education spending, but it has everything to do with their home values. And we want to be able to give them some things that they need and want to see for our schools. But where are we with the will of this group in terms of how far we're going with what we want to present to the voters in terms of, you know, regardless of the tax cap, where are we with our list of priorities or?
I mean, I thought we had a good budget, and I mean, this district is growing, and there was a lot of good things in there that we needed, and I guess I'm worried about all the volatility, and there isn't much in there that at some point in time, whether it's needed right now or even the capital things, it will be needed. Like some of those things, like we're just gonna go at some point, and the way the law is right now benefits us to try to make those moves. And so I'm not sure why not just take what we've already done and just, you know, the voters can always vote it down, and then we can cut from there. If we cut beforehand, I mean, I'm not sure that's, other districts are continually asking.
I will confirm that your statement about the systems may fail, like we are at that spot with some of our systems in our schools. We already have failure in some of those systems. The roof in Highgate has been leaking since I have been employed by Franklin Northwest. So for 13 years, we have tried to patch it. We've tried to patch it $70,000, $100,000, $75,000, and it is still leaking. Eventually, that's going to catch up with us. But that's just to confirm that statement, is the things that are on that list, some are already failing.
And I tend to agree with you, Rennick. Seeing that list of capital items, there's no luxuries in there. It's basic infrastructure. And I also would like to see the rest of the equation finished before casting a vote. So I don't know that it'll make me want to change what's in the budget, seeing the new math, you know, the new calculation, but I'd like some time to sit with the new calculation first is all.
If we get new calculations.
Yeah, maybe we'll be guessing on Monday. But I'm hopeful that Thursday will give us something, or at least Laura and Julie can have more conversations about this particular piece of information.
With the other.
Yes, so I think that'll probably be our most helpful source of information.
See, to confirm what Devin is saying, I know Peter knows this because we've talked about it. We aren't asking for anything in facilities that I can think of that we aren't going to need. We need a roof in Highgate. There may be some things that we want. We need to pave the parking lot. We're trying to patch it now. So it's not like we went out to dream up a lot of things that we wanted to put in it. We basically, my take is, we took a 5-year plan and we backed it up to a shorter term. But if we don't do those things, then we're going to be dealing with them next year, and the year after, and they keep getting more expensive.
If we don't do those things, we're going to end up being like the police department and fire department, where they have facilities that have not been maintained to the level that they needed to be, and now they're requesting a new building. And we all know how well that's going over. So, I feel like what you said, Rennick, is true. We're not asking for these exorbitant things. We're trying to maintain what we have and bring it up to standard so that we're not asking the community to foot the bill for a new building because we didn't maintain what we had.
The people who said we're not going to do construction aid a decade ago created a lot of this. Many schools would have kept their buildings in better shape. Not saying us, but there are in the States that do some consulting work. They kept putting it off, hoping construction aid would come back. Well, it hasn't come back yet, and it's getting the job worse.
I also think, as Laura and I have been having these conversations, it's important as far as the straight face test, to people who would be pushing back and saying, well, you added a bunch of capital to your general budget, we've been doing that, right? We have been taking the capital line and increasing it, and then increasing it some more, and then last year we had a big jump with the roof, and, you know, we have now increased tax capacity, never mind caps and pushing to 9% and all of that stuff. We have increased tax capacity, and that does allow us to tackle more of the things that the board has determined are urgent. We have plenty of other important things, you know, that we can put off with a new baseline of increased capital capacity in this budget. But these are the things, and yes, the Highgate roof is kind of my mantra here when I'm having conversations. It's not, this isn't just some new idea this board has come up with. You have been adding to the capital line over the past several years with an idea to build it to enough where you can tackle projects that are smaller in scope and take care of our aging buildings.
And to your point, Dawn, as far as the capital plan, when we first created a capital plan, all of these things were in the first year. We then realized we don't have capacity to do them all, so we took all of them and we scattered them out over the next 5 years. In the last couple of years, some of them have gotten pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because we couldn't add to the tax rate, or the yield had changed because everybody was spending. So it's not even necessarily like anything has been moved up. It's actually that historically everything has been moved back, and now we're actually putting it back where it was to try to address it. And to your point, Megan, I agree with you 100%. You can either do it now or it's going to cost more later because you will need a new building. And oh, by the way, we are all paying for new buildings that have been built in the last 5 years or 10 years or actually 20 years because they're 20-year bonds and we all help pay for them. So that's when we go out to bond for 30 million or Essex goes out to bond or anything, everyone pays for that.
I'd look forward to a team coming in here and asking us to justify our budget when the things we're doing, not staffing, that's what things we're doing. Anybody that I think is a reasonable person would say, yeah, maybe you should let your roof keep leaking to destroy infrastructure.
Bring it to Highgate and make sure it rains that day.
I also, Julie and I have talked a lot about, I think it's interesting that they would trigger a review on a school district spending that was below or at the state average and not the rest of them. Right. I feel like they should make a floor to it. You know, if your spending is below a certain percentage of everybody else, then you kind of get, because the whole point is equity.
And maybe that's what the board looks at, again, not so much the caps, because it's, I don't know that, I don't believe it will go above where it is now. I don't believe it'll go to 91, 71. It'll probably be somewhere in the middle. But if you look at your spending per long-term weighted ADM, which rolls right off the tongue, that metric is really the one to look at. Do you want to be at 13? Do you want to be at 12? Do you want to be at 11? Like, where do you want to be so we can...
How far are we behind other districts?
With the December 1 information.
You stole my question.
Maple Run's at 14 something.
We're pretty far under, yeah.
With the December 1 estimates, the calculation per long-term weighted ADM would be the average would be 12,854 in the state. That was with the December 1 letter.
Don't know where it is now.
Don't know where it is now. Depends on what the spending really ends up being.
But we're still well below our.
We would be, well, with your draft.
With draft 6.
With draft 6, you'd be slightly over it. You'd be at 13,012.
Right, but still below with the other towns.
Our closest towns. Oh, yeah.
So then on Thursday, what is the information that we're reading to?
It's a hearing, so it's an opportunity for the joint committees to get testimony.
So is Julie.
But what direct result or concrete information will that give us to make a decision?
Well, they'll take that testimony and then presumably meet and use it to inform any decision that they are going to make or recommend.
As far as the yield goes? Or as far as like Act 127?
As far as the law.
Right.
And the yield will happen more in May, but
All of that conversation
That
impacts
whole-
the estimate on the yield.
the what you'll get out of the hearing is tone. I think that's what you'll get.
I mean, it makes sense to then wait for the information, but unless there's a, they're gonna abolish Act 127 altogether and change it, I still think we have a good budget that, everything in there for capital and some of the increases, like, I think they're necessary to sustain what we're trying to do going forward, so.
And at least if we do present it, like, I agree, I think our budget is smart. And I think it's a strong budget and we have reasons for everything in there. And if we do present it and it fails, at least we know that we presented what we believe we need as a district and what our students need. And then it's nobody.
To save a little bit, then you still can use your budget. Because what we're not talking about right now is the kind of the real world of this is your budget, this is what you need, this is a tax rate, and all that. It's all the games that they're playing with it. It was something called unintended consequence.
We all just wish they would have come up with the idea and then let us all figure out how it would have played out in the current year. And then if it worked out and we figured out all the glitches, then you put it in place the following year. That just seems such a reasonable approach. It's not what they did. I also think the other thing that I'm just gonna bring back to the surface is our tax rate, our equalized tax rate was $1.43 when we merged. Year one we merged, our tax rate was $1.43. The proposal that we have would be at the $1.30 at the equalized tax rate, so.
We're still
That's a good reminder.
So, what kind of discussions do you want to have?
Well, if we're not voting on this budget tonight, then we need to decide when are we putting it up for adoption.
And also, what kind of scenarios do you want me to bring back, if any, that are different? A little bit of direction or maybe narrowing would be helpful. I mean, I can run all of them again, but.
So, first of all, first thing we're gonna do is, I wanna know who wants to wait till Monday and who would wanna vote tonight.
Would it be Monday or Friday? You said we have to have it by like noon on Monday to them?
No, I can.
No.
End of.
Okay.
Is that enough time though?
I asked her today and she reluctantly said yes. The printer.
Noon on Monday, that means we're having a special meeting.
No, it's not noon.
Not noon. The
When
noon
I can-
is
yeah.
data going to the state, and we can give estimates on that. And that's supposed to help the legislature make some of their decisions, right? So they're gonna get an estimates. But Monday, if we had a board meeting, a special board meeting Monday night would be just to adopt the budget and the warning. That's kind of our drop dead date, unless you want us hand printing.
Well, that's what I mean, is that enough time or should it be Friday?
That's enough time.
Monday's fine.
You don't want to pick Friday?
At this point, there's nothing else in my life going on, so.
I have a question.
Sure.
Draft 6 we're on, I'm assuming has some of the talking points that were prepared that I used when I came on Martin Luther King Day to the schools. Was one of the talking points was if this budget makes it through to an article and the article passes, it would maintain COVID supports.
Yes.
what's the dollar figure for that?
Well, I think as we've explained, there were a lot of adjustments or give and takes, right? So a lot of our COVID positions, it was a trade-off. We've found places to absorb those costs. Others, let me go over, because they're all listed here on that sheet.
So I don't need the answer tonight, but I would like that answer. I don't know this, but I'm very curious. A lot of, with the other school districts in the state, I see this as a great shift of federal dollars that were given to all our districts, and people want to maintain those supports and those programs that came from those federal dollars. Federal dollars are going away or gone. So I'm concerned that the shift now on all of those programs are being transferred to local and state dollars. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely, not for MVSD, but as a state, absolutely.
Because we have built those positions. In any positions that were added, there's maybe 6. They have been in the budget for a few years for us, but others, that's not necessarily the case.
We knew this was coming, and we've been tailoring the revenue.
Right, so what do we mean then when we're saying that this budget contains COVID, would be able to maintain all the services and programs that was COVID money?
The ones that the administration has chosen to keep that are effective and that we have data to support have been put into the budget either over the last couple of years, either 2 years ago or last year, and we have tailored the revenue back from ESSER that was supporting them to prepare for this fiscal cliff that everyone thought was new.
So what we're saying is we've already prepared our local taxpayers to, they've already passed budgets that have absorbed those costs.
Absolutely.
We knew it was coming in, we didn't want it to hit all in 1 year, so we thought it was responsible to do it over the couple of years. Not all school districts have done that. MVSD also did not spend all of their COVID dollars on positions or programming. We invested in a school addition in Franklin, we invested in other things. And that's not true for all school districts either. Some school districts put all of their money in staff and contracts, and now they don't have any money to pay for it.
But we had very few positions that were added. We certainly took existing positions and we used revenue to support our budget overall. But we actually have pretty solid revenue coming in, so even with the removal of COVID, we aren't having a huge decrease in revenue.
One of those is Medicaid. We knew this was coming, and so we've been talking about Medicaid dollars. Those are super flexible. We've been keeping those sort of in a reserve because we knew this year we would need more, next year probably too. So I think we've been positioned as well as we can be. But you're absolutely right about the impact of that situation influencing the Ed Fund and the Act 127 reaction and all of that. Absolutely. Act 173 is also doing it because that's a change in special ed. There were school districts who had big losses or big gains from Act 173 as far as the block grant calculation. That happened a couple of years ago, but the extraordinary calculation is just hitting the road now, and school districts the lower spending districts and more higher poverty school districts are getting a lot more revenue, and the higher spending districts with lower poverty are getting a lot less revenue. So all of this is hitting at the same time. And you either prepared for it or you didn't, it seems.
And so we're getting more weight for and recognition of students who have socioeconomic challenges in our population. We're getting more money out of Act 173 rather than less in some areas. And then of course our switch in the equalized people. So all of that, plus the fact that we prepared for any positions, the truancy coordinator, social worker, and interventionist, it's a handful. And those positions have been in the budget, and we have tapered off the amount of revenue being applied to those positions so that they've been already part of past budgets over the past several years.
So Monday night, where are we gonna meet?
Well, I wanna make sure, so, since we've had the discussion, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we would just get a motion to adopt, the budget as it stands now, and if it gets shot down, then we would do Monday. Is that like the more appropriate way to do it, or instead of getting everybody's opinion if they wanna wait till Monday, or, because we have it as an action, so.
We do.
So.
You would make a
can
motion,
table.
I think, to table. I think that's the most appropriate thing to do, should you wanna do that. That doesn't mean you can't have discussions about what you wanna see, and that you can't have discussions about the treasurer, clerk, and moderator terms. You can
So
have
we
the-
wouldn't be able
yeah.
to do the action on the, on C, on the board of officers?
Sure you can.
Okay.
You can do that.
You just said, okay.
I'm sorry,
So,
what did I say? Did I
You,
say
you,
the
you rolled,
opposite?
you did, and I'm like, what?
You can. There's
Alright,
no
so-
reason why you couldn't, is what I think I was trying to say.
You could make a motion to table it today, a time specific, and that would.
Okay.
You do that,
But, alright.
but you don't have to do that.
If the chair will entertain a motion, I will make a motion to table the vote on the budget. Was that the actionable item? Table the action for a motion, for a vote on the budget until a future board meeting of the board.
Would you amend that to include the warning?
Yeah, because we're not gonna, yes, so thank you. I would amend that to include the article for the,
So Toby, why wouldn't you give a specific date and time?
because could snow on Friday if we plan on Friday, because I think
Say
that,
by Monday.
or by Monday, I could say by Monday, yeah, all right.
Because I don't know, but if I was a public out there, I might say, wow, that's pretty neat. Someday they're gonna meet and vote on the budget.
Okay, good point, fair enough. So I'll make a motion to table the action on the budget and the article until Monday?
By Monday.
By end of day Monday,
By Monday, what's that date?
the 29th.
January 29th.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
The only other thing in regards to the warning though, it would be helpful if I could send what we have to the printers, so are there any thoughts on that article for, are we
Well, that's
sticking?
next week.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
we
sorry.
can do that, that's fine.
I'm not usually this distractible.
I think I can, yeah. Okay, so, alright, we're gonna table it till, by Monday night.
We haven't voted.
Oh, yes, see, I'm distracted, because
Look
you're
what
just,
I
and
did.
I know I'm watching you. Alright, all those in favor, of tabling, the adoption of the budget and the warning by Monday night, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Motion carries 9-0. Alright.
Yeah, we got to do that.
Should we indicate time and place, at least not less than that, so that, I mean, we're here tonight, but usually we, when we're doing other things, what should
know.
I'm gonna personally say that.
Well, we should know if, because I don't know about MVU library, when we do budget information and we have meetings.
Don't we need to check with them to see if their space is available?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Do you want me to
saying.
text?
We could say we're gonna be there and they're gonna say, there's a hiccup.
No, you're not.
No, you're not. Well, we could even do it at central office, so.
Sports award
Right?
is 6 to 7, I don't know where they hold it.
I don't know if we can fit.
Middle school sports awards.
Okay, I'm even open until this weekend, just for, like Saturday, Sunday.
I'm not available this weekend.
This space could be available to you.
It could be.
If you needed it Monday, for sure.
Thank you, Chris.
At least that's a known.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And certainly if nothing else, it could be
Same
back
place
up
we're
my-
in now.
Same place, I think that's wise.
Yeah, we're the same thing.
So, so
Everything is delay.
is everybody available?
Sit in your same chair.
It's fine.
Is everybody available Monday night?
My schedule's not as busy as it used to be.
Well,
Do you
probably
wanna-
doesn't need to be till 7 p.m. Rennick, I know 6 is tough for you. I mean, if it's just the budget, we could only need to start till 7.
Right.
Well, I think we're still probably gonna have discussion. Well,
Yeah.
I guess.
Just
Well,
make-
there'll
just
be a
make
lot
the
of
time less for everyone, and I'll try.
Call out sick.
You're on camera.
Which one am I job?
6:30? Make it easier for you? So, Monday night, 6:30, is everybody good with that?
So we'll warn a special meeting for 6:30, Monday, January 29th, in the Swanton Central Library.
Yes. Do we want to discuss before you ask the next question? Because you're gonna go on to C, right?
No.
No.
It's
Oh.
a
Yeah,
question
see.
about the warning. Okay.
Yes, that is,
Oh.
board officers.
Yeah,
position.
let's see. But is there any scenarios that, do we want to stick, I just want Laura to be more prepared and maybe we don't, which scenario, do we want to stick with the draft 6 and just have her present that to us, or what does everybody kind of think?
I feel like it'd just be a shot in the dark to tell you what to look at, because
She was wondering, so I was,
yeah.
trying to get a
I just
consensus
meant if
for.
there was like something that there's, you know, the majority is saying, no, that could be cut, or it doesn't sound like that's the case, but if there's, you know,
I think we
something
should-
known.
I think we should have a motion to adopt the budget draft 6 as it is, and if there's potentially radical news that comes out, then we can correspond thoughts or something before then.
So I'd be interested to see the remaining scenarios that are on here, just with updated dollars to meet the description of match the description of the scenario. And then-
Still with the caps too?
Yeah, so
Okay.
using the cap, but obviously the dollars need to change to hit that.
Yep.
I'd also be, this is probably not another scenario, but I'd like to know, from draft 6, getting down to that average spending per long-term weighted ADM, what is the total cost that would need to change for us to be at the state average?
Is that state average?
Sorry?
Is that state average?
Spending per long-term weighted average.
Is that accurate where it's at right now? The total?
It was,
It's an
it was,
estimate.
yeah, it was based on the increases to ed spending that people put out at their first or second budget draft, so.
So
Some went up, some went down, so, it's as good as, I don't have any other number to use.
We don't know what it is, like, it's a different, like last year's, we don't have like for all the schools or not?
Not by long-term weighted ADM, because we were using equalized
Different,
pupils.
yeah, right.
I would have to run my own calculation on every school.
I'm real curious where we are too.
I know why you're asking that, but I was also like, based on what number?
Yeah, I know, right? There's still some dubious accuracy to that because we don't know how many people then reacted to Act 127 after you had.
But I'm curious, you were starting to say that you could do your own calculation based upon that.
That was joking.
She's not volunteering.
That's just cruel, Toby.
Do you want her to be here Monday night?
Well, we might know where we were under the equalized, right? I mean, there's from last,
Oh,
there's
yeah, but it
last
doesn't mean
year's
anything.
data.
Equalized was like 20,000.
Right,
It doesn't mean anything with the new weights and all the changing in the ADMs.
Right, but it will tell us how we were spending last year, or how our spending
Oh, I can
compared.
look, we were under state average last
We were
year.
like 14.
Yeah, we were under by like $1,000 last year, under the spending for equalized people.
If we have a better idea of what the yield is gonna be on Monday, I'd like to see a budget that's closer to 5%. Just because that letter does bother me, because they said they could change the law, and like Dawn said, they could do that this now, and do reviews at 5% if you hit that mark. And the way that letter's written to me is, we didn't intend it for districts that are getting increased tax capacity. This was set up with the intention for schools that were decreasing, and knowing the budgets were gonna go up, it was to protect them and give them, let them ease into it more. So my fear is, they don't even care what our budget looks like and what we're spending on. They're looking at, this wasn't intended for you, you're not gonna get the 5% cap. So if we're at 9, well, I don't wanna see our taxpayers have to foot the whole bill.
But isn't the only problem with that, Peter, that if we do that based on a projected yield that is not certain, and that yield goes a different direction?
Well, that's
then
what
we
I'm
could be
saying, I'm
well
hoping
below
Monday
it.
we have a better idea
Yeah.
what the yield is.
But I mean, even a projected of what the yield is, it's still not covered. I mean, I'm more concerned whether
And
or
that's my
not,
concern too.
but I would be more concerned with whether or not the actual law will change.
And I think if we go over that, we can't tell the taxpayers that this is what it's gonna cost you, it's only gonna be 5% more, and you don't know that. I think we have to tell them, this is our budget, this is what it'll cost tax-wise. It may be less, but we don't know.
I understand that, I'm worried that we're going off of the information we have now that's true. And right now, Act 127 is in place, and so if they.
We've received a letter that tells us this could change, it's not like we don't know.
But even that, it's just triggering a review, it's not changing it. If they were saying they might change it.
If you read the way the letter is intended, they spell it out that tax rate, that 5% cap was not put in place for our district. It was put in place for districts that lost tax capacity.
They gave them an off ramp, but they didn't give us an on ramp, and that's really
Yes.
unfortunate, because I would also caution you to think about next year while you're thinking about this stuff, because that will be here before we know it, and what we do this year will absolutely impact next year.
So, Julie, did you say you'd been asked to provide some additional testimony? Did I hear that over there?
Estimated
was asked
budget.
yesterday.
Everybody has been
Everybody was
asked, and I have, I have concerns about sort of, I have some concerns about providing testimony in this current environment and drawing certain attention. But I may do something in writing that just highlights the fact that you did not have an on-ramp for schools that are trying to build capacity. And one of the ways for us to do that is to utilize the cap and to address actual capital needs, and that it is unfair to characterize us or paint us with the same brush as schools that should be cutting and are using capital projects as a way to avoid that. And I don't think that that is fair when our spending per equalized pupil or long-term weighted ADM has traditionally been low, and we're just trying to move it a little closer to the average and build capacity.
Well, and I think because of the amount of students that we have that require additional and extra, we haven't been able to do these things that we should have been able to do along the way. So yes, we're trying to utilize this cap to bring things to where we should be, but it's still, in my opinion, in in line with the intent of the law, because, I mean, it doesn't matter what I think, but, you know, that's my argument, where if we did get called on and said, you're being reviewed, I feel fully confident in that argument. Like, we weren't able to do these things because we have such a huge population that is causing us to spend so much more. We couldn't. We didn't have the ability to do that, and we know from our community that the budget wouldn't have passed if we tried to. So we are trying to live up to the intent of the law by giving these students what they deserve and not keep kicking the can down the road.
And again, it's a 1-year jump. From
Right.
now on, our bar will be higher in terms of students as the divisor, right, or divider.
I think the statement that Laura's made a few times is very powerful. This is where we were with the merger, and this is what the trend has been. And we're doing it. And Julie, if you do decide to do written testimony, I'll give you 4 names that you should contact.
Matt
We will
Walker.
contact all of them, but,
Matt Walker's also texting me saying he wants to talk in the morning. He's a
So-
legislator.
So, I guess what I look at, seeing the state's letter, and they're trying to dissuade districts from having budgets that fall above the cap this year. If they did not have the stipulation that not meeting the cap in year 1 means you can never qualify for it the remaining years, if that was gone, and so that next year and the year after and the year after, we could still utilize the 5% cap, that would get rid of I think the biggest part of the push for districts to try to get to that cap, right? Because this is, you know, and I know a lot of this is about trying to navigate the unknowns in this long-term budget scenario we're trying to operate under with no real knowledge of what's happening in the future. And so, I don't know. I took umbrage with the sentence in the letter that, you know, was talking about not wanting districts to act out of, rational self-interest. And it bugged me because we're not operating for 9 people, right? We're thinking about the people in our 3 towns and trying to make sure that we are not putting 3 towns at risk of really substantial increases in the future. The way this yield's moving around, we know that the risks are there. So if I were to offer testimony, I guess what I would say is get rid of that requirement of being capped in year 1 to be able to use the caps in years 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you do that, I think you'll right away see a lot of districts go, okay, the risks are now low, right? We can now comfortably do something that maybe the state's a little more
It's too late.
happy with. But it's probably too late for a whole bunch, you know, but
They've all adopted their budgets.
I also think
So
they
it's
should
kind of
tier
nice.
they should tier it. It's at 5% now, next year make it 6, next year make it 7,
Sure.
next year make it 8. It
Sure.
makes complete sense.
But it's just too, they've introduced so much risk to the schools that, you know, weren't already so far over the cap that they were, had no choice. For all the rest of us, there's just this huge amount of risk that they've built into this thing. So.
what they've been doing is incentivized to get on the train now. And if you don't catch it now, it's.
But they didn't seem to see that coming.
Well, it's not the same for everybody. So I mean, in their defense, there's so much minutia that comes into play here. Our neighbors have a completely different situation, and part of the reason they have that situation is because they were already a Provision 2 or a CEP school, which we just became. So they were already capturing, where we just started to be able to report these kids that are on the Medicaid list, Medicaid eligible kids on our direct certification list. We were missing those kids before. They were still here, but we weren't capturing them in our counts for the last 2 years. They were, because they were a Provision 2 or a CEP school, so they're not having that big, their wage changed for them, but they're not having a 30% increase in their direct certification list. We are. So something like that changes the paradigm completely. But these are the things that, had they let it play out for a year, like let us run the scenarios for a year, we could have told them all this. That's just one example of like 1,000 that that VASBO has thrown around, where it makes a huge difference on how this is hitting the road.
And I mean, also in their defense, I think there's no way for them to be able to anticipate every single district's unique circumstances, so for whatever that's worth. But I do agree, with what Peter had said earlier. When I read that letter, I also get a very clear tone of this wasn't for you. And so that makes me nervous as well. So I would also like to see that version that Peter requested of.
Well, it's probably tricky to know with the new yield. It's just, I would caution you to get too close to it, because if the yield even changes as we went through, even $100, that's like 1.5 cents or 1.5%. So like we have to.
Yeah, I'd be curious, not having it in front of me, but the work that the facilities committee did. If we were to reduce it, what would be the recommendation of the facilities committee? I want to go item by item, not target dollar amounts. You know what I mean? Because I think we've got to have that listed as the things that we need.
So we can go through and assess each one and say, okay, we're gonna nix this or not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not nix. Push off.
Right,
again
push off
to
again.
another year.
Right. And we'll do it again next year.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know if Peter did it, but I think we probably facilities would want review, or you would want review, or Laura would want us to review. So I sat down and reviewed it, and I'm gonna tell you, we might not have to buy a backboard, even though it'd be nice. Maybe we don't have to buy a
Actually,
field hockey
it's a safety
sign.
hazard, so we have to replace them in the next year anyway.
So, as far as I'm concerned,
Pretty inexpensive item.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything there that should be cut. But as I say, I'll defer to the chair, but my review was, so we don't have a field hockey sign, we've never had one. Is it gonna save any money? Of course not at all. We should buy it. We should be respectful of our students and say, hey, everywhere you go, they have a sign, or clock, or whatever it is. We don't, you're gonna get it. And somebody will cut that.
It's like $3,000.
We had it intended, it's needed, the paving for the MVU part is needed, no question about it. We weren't planning to do it this year.
No, we weren't, but it's getting worse every day.
Right, but we put it in there and, we have to patch it again, but I just don't wanna put that on the backs of the taxpayers with everything else. I'd rather see us I don't wanna see, we've got the CLA that, that's not our fault. We already know taxes are gonna go up for all our,
Excuse me.
and to add another 10% on top of that.
So you take the paving off the.
I think we have to look at it and see what we would take off.
But even if we took $1 million off of it, I mean, what difference is that really gonna make when the yield can make it much more drastic?
To your point, it can make drastic, so it can increase even more, which is even more tax that, I don't think our district has the tax capacity. I'm not sure we have it to that 5%, but I agree with what Devin's saying about it gives us a safety if we can, if they allow us to cap, which isn't known. I agree, I'd like to see us get that to be able to for the next budget. But who knows how that's gonna go as far as the budget passing. Beyond that, I've seen this district before. I don't see a huge, they're gonna look at how much more we're spending this year than we did last year, and they're gonna say, we can't afford that.
But they should be looking at the long-term weighted ADM spending, because and they made the law based on research that to change the weights, our ADM has been increasing. They now acknowledge the fact that it costs more to educate those kids. So to me, that's the number, not the expenditure budget. It should be that the spending for
They're gonna
long-term
look at how much your
ADM.
taxes are going up,
Oh, community members, yes.
and they're gonna see how much we're spending.
I thought when you said they, they, the AOE is they.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
The only thing I would say is that, it's tricky to rely on that cap because we will not know if they're going to trigger a review at that 5% like it says in the letter. And if they trigger the review, we think we secured the cap, we pass our budget, and they did change the rule that we trigger a review at 5%, anything that's on there can be our burden anyway. So it's kind of
That's my fear.
yeah.
That's right. And I do feel like, I can only speak for Swanton because I'm not, privy to the community pages, but like I know people in Swanton, especially the village, are incredibly on edge right now about taxes. And I think we are, for better or worse, guilty by association. Anything related to taxes I just feel like it's such a hot issue right now. To Peter's point, even if I can sit there and explain this whole thing very rationally and it makes sense, I don't know if that's enough because of everything else that's going on in Swanton right now. And I hate to say that. I think it's very unfortunate, but I think it has to be acknowledged, and I think it is just sort of what's happening right now in the climate right now. At least, again, I can only speak for what's happening in Swan because of the taxes.
What do you mean?
With the proposed police department, fire department, it's a huge tax increase. The rec center
There's so much
is on
on one
there.
ballot that.
Right, and
I don't know, I read in the editorial that it sounded like Earl was Forney was the chair. Sounds like he's backing away from doing that. That's what he said in the editorial.
And regardless of what happens, it's in people's heads that taxes are going up. That December 1 letter made it even worse. So they're already looking at every school budget with this taint, I guess, for lack of a better word. But they read this letter. We saw these, alarmist headlines. There's going to be an 18% increase. That people can't help but react to that, and it's going to color their perception of what we present and how we present it. I just think that is society.
Yeah, but I agree, but again, my concern is actually the opposite. My concern is that the focus is so much on we're going to cut, we're going to keep it as low as possible. Like before last week, we were talking about 6% of a potential 20-cent increase. Like that was what we were actually contributing to. And we don't know how things are going to change. So if we preemptively go in there and say, all right, we're going to take off $2 million right now ahead of time, a lot of people aren't even going to know that. And so when it comes time to vote, and if they feel the way they feel, because voting day, people are going to vote how they feel that day, and it votes down, now where are we cutting from? And all of a sudden, are we dipping into the cap? Are we not? Is it still in place? And then we take $5 million off? Are we below 5%? Are we not? And now we're dipping into our operational things and what we actually need. And at the end of the day, it's about prioritizing services and keeping people employed. And we employ a lot of people in this district.
I think that's part of why, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's part of why Peter asked for seeing that scenario, is that we can at least have an idea of like what would need to happen. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 hours with all of this stuff. But at least if we have it on there to look at, we're not completely blindsided when or if we have to make adjustments, and we'll be better prepared.
Would you only make the reductions down to 5% from capital? Or in this scenario, I have two different scenarios in here that I was asked to run.
Well, I just want to say that I don't recommend any of the staff reductions that were put in the proposal, right? You know, so especially we added a halftime PE teacher at MVU in our budget so that, you know, we eliminated the idea of an athletic director for elementary, but we now feel like we can share between MVU and Franklin for a full-time FTE. And right now, when they did cut through attrition a PE teacher at MVU, it cut too deeply. They knew they didn't need a full-time, but they cut too deeply. So now they have trouble with exploratories and specials, unified arts for middle school kids. So we've added that back in. We can't hire a halftime business teacher. We need a business teacher, another business teacher. You know, those are things that and we've talked about the alternative programs we're trying to build in 2 of our schools. So even though they're on the list because we were asking to do it, they're not administrative recommended cuts. I just want to say that. I would rather go through the capital plan and say, as much as I can stand behind putting them in, right, that it would be, you know, put it into the next year and move it.
So that was kind of
I just wanted to make that.
our thought, that it was probably gonna be capital, so Laura, I did reach out to Dawn and Rennick, and I don't know if you wanna meet this week. We thought we could meet Thursday night if you wanted to look at what we would have to do to get to that 5%.
No, I can do whatever I need to do, but Jason, I know, has a commitment with his children on Thursdays, but I can try to work with him. I think that would be important. He and I have talked about this some, but
Yep.
I don't want to speak for him, and I think he should be there, so, but maybe he can join remotely or something. I'll text him.
So right now, how much has been added in facilities? 3 million? How much have
There was about 3.6, I think.
Okay, so 3 million. So if we eliminated everything, what's that gonna do to the tax rate?
As it stands right now, no.
With what yield?
Exactly.
Give me a number, Don.
Exactly. So my point is, and I'll listen to Remick and Peter, but right now I'm voting for the things that we said were important in facilities. But there may be a few things that we can adjust. Are we gonna let the roof leak in Highgate, patch it? And when oil prices go up, which they go up every year, we're gonna find out, we'll probably pay 8, 10, 12% more because we've waited a year or two. I mean, I hear people, and, you know, I own a lot of property in Swanton, Highgate, and well, maybe not as much as most people, but enough that we're gonna hit on taxes, but hey, gotta do what you gotta do. But anyway, we can review that, but right now, I'm not leaning that way, Peter, and I respect you, I'm not leaning that way at all. Because this is gonna be a dogfight no matter what we do, and if the budget goes down, and we've given away our cushion. But anyway, it's a good discussion to have, and it's fair, I guess, that we have it, but,
Well, I do want to share this. I was out in the community the other day and talking with somebody who actually sat on one of the boards here in Swanton. We had a good talk, and you know, I mentioned on the school board, and we started talking about things, and they said, I don't have kids, and but I vote, and I vote every year, and because I show up to vote, and I'll pass it. Don't always want to, but I'll pass it. He's like, as long as you can explain what's in it, and you have a plan. And the one thing I don't want to lose sight of is almost everything we have in that budget is needed and is supporting something that's pretty good. And that's what I want to be talking about to the community for the next time forward, which is, why do we need these things? Like, I mean, so many people need like all the support that we're doing and the way we're trying to go and maintain the facilities. And you know, us as board members, we're privy to that information like every week. Like, we got to be able to say like, there's a reason for this, and then giving them time to talk about it and say, this is why it matters and this is why we need it. Because I hate to at least let them make that decision. And then if we have to start really cutting, let's cut on March 14th. Because that's what the committee decided. And I'm gonna be fine with that. So, that's just my opinion.
Jason said he can make Thursday work. He's asking about the time.
What time works for him?
He just sent me 6:30 would be right after hockey, but if that's a normal time, he can have his dad too, just take care of his kids, so it sounds like 6:30 or 7 would be better for him.
Works for me.
I'll be at the Highgate PTO. Talking about budget.
I think that's really important.
But it is important, so I will be there.
All right, so. See, some more fun tonight than I thought it would be.
Can I give you a picture? Because we're gonna.
All I want to do is get a Stanley Cup right now.
I know, right? Like, jeez.
Except for I did get my winter tire before I got my Stanley Cup.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So do I.
That video was great.
I saw that.
Jason said 6:30 is fine, so I'll send it.
Okay.
You guys good with that? 6:30 on
Yeah,
Thursday?
6 Thursday, and we're gonna meet at central office, right?
Yep.
So,
Laura, one thing maybe unrelated to this, but when I talked with John Brown, I was up meeting with Yesser on something else, and he was there, he said he and Michael had walked through the building, and he didn't think the study of the white building would cost nearly as much as we had said. Now, I'm not saying we should take that out of the budget, because it's not that big a deal, but it's just clicked. They'd been there to school, and they said, we did a walkthrough, and he said, because remember I said, I added money, I think you came and said 150. So.
Yeah, I met with him and Mike Davey after that, and when we were going through a list of all the things that would have to be evaluated, and also on top of that, that it wasn't just the white building, it was the brick building also. We wanted to know what the opposing scenario would be.
We just talked about
Yeah.
the white building.
Yeah, but I can invite him too, but.
Well, I don't think he has to come there, but he can tell you
Sure.
200,000 is too much, that's all we need to know.
Okay.
If he says no, based on what I've seen, it's 200, but we walked through and we think maybe 150 or whatever.
Yep, got it.
It's not gonna make one bit of difference in my taxes, but it's at least looking at it.
That's a good point.
Okay, so now we're going to go to a little bit backwards to C for the board officers. Terms, treasurer, clerk, and moderator, instead of doing a one-year term, that they would be able to do a 3-year term because they're going out every year to get their signatures and having to be on the ballot, so they would.
Is that something the board could do or goes on for the voters?
It
It
has
goes on
to.
to, oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh,
You
we would vote if we want to put it on the ballot for the voters in for 25.
In statute, it is 1 year for those officers unless the voters of the community choose to increase the term.
The way I
So-
first read it and saw it somewhere, I thought, oh, they're gonna be 3 years. No, the voters will decide.
This year, we'd ask the voters if it's all right with them to make it 3 years, and then next year, when people go out, it would be for a
Now,
3-year.
somebody's retiring, right?
Yes, we have,
Treasurer?
Georgette Roddy is leaving the role of treasurer, and Julie Rivers has submitted a ballot with signatures, so.
So, I'm looking for a motion
Yep.
to propose, to put on the ballot that board officers, treasurer, clerk, and moderator terms are increased from 1 year to 3 years?
Yes. Perfect.
I'll second.
10 seconds. Thank you. Any discussion, questions?
So where did this come from? Was it, were current officers
Yes.
asking for it to get increased?
And I believe this would start next year.
Yes.
Not for this election,
Right.
yeah. Mhm.
25
Have we ever had multiple individuals running for any of these offices? No.
No.
Not the doors.
Usually making
Have we
lots of
gone out
phone
and
calls.
begged people to
Have we
consider?
gone on vague, right? This is where I'm headed, right? This is a, as close to a volunteer position as you
I
can
think-
get.
I think
So
that-
make it easy
With
on
that
them.
being
Good.
said, would we stagger these positions so we wouldn't have all three running in the same year? We could stagger them so we only have to look for one person a year instead of every year, like, well, we got three positions.
We could do that.
Explain
We
that to
make
me.
it a little tricky. It'd be kind of like when we first merged and people had a 1-year term and a
Right.
2-year term and a 3-year term.
I think it might be beneficial down the road not to have them all, every 3 years, we got these three positions, unless we could have do one each year.
Yes, let me play with some language for that, because that actually makes sense. If the board votes to do that, right? Like, we would come to you next Monday with a ballot for you to approve, not a ballot, the warning for you to approve. And so we can come up with some ballot language to address staggering, if the will of the board is that.
If we do that, I would like to say that I'd like to see the treasurer be a 3-year term. Because I think, you know, I think your brother does a great job as a,
You mean to start out the,
Yeah.
and then whatever,
yeah, but they'd be 3 years because you don't want to flip that one every year.
No,
Well, we wouldn't be
they'd all
flipping
3
any of
years.
them. They'd all be 3 years, but we'd start.
No, but I don't want, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd be fine with starting the treasurer to do a 3-year one.
And do clerk 2 years, moderator 1 year.
And then the next time they'd be 3 when you come up.
I make a motion that we request the administration to come forth with a item for the warning that would elect the treasurer for 3 years, clerk for 2 years, and the moderator for 1 year initially.
With the goal.
Then they would all get 3-year terms.
Yeah. After that.
So initially it'd be 3, 2, 1, and then when your term comes up, you would qualify for 3.
Yes.
Otherwise, you don't do that, you're gonna be right back in the same position.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Your brother's gonna think you don't want it every few years.
Sorry, I had to say
Maybe
that.
some people won't run because they don't want to do
We
it.
gotta do something about the pay for that, so there's another cut.
Still working on that, Mr. Magnet.
So do I have a second for,
I'll second that.
okay, Peter? Here.
So are we voting on both those then?
So, yes, you've got two things on the table, just so you know, I don't know that, I think you almost have to.
Yeah, we'd have to deal with the
Did
first
you
one
vote
first.
for the other one?
No.
But
No.
it's got the two motions, they have to rescind that vote, I
Yeah.
think, rescind that motion, I think, is what you need to do.
Can we just vote on the first motion and then vote on the second?
Friendly amendment? To be staggered in there?
Well, you got Rennick and Devin who made that first
Right.
motion, and then now you have.
Don and Peter who made the second motion.
So that
Peter
second
made the
motion
so it
included
might be just easier for them to just
Included
the 3 years also, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of all encompassing. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with it to join on theirs. It's a friendly amendment.
So you rescind.
I'll rescind.
I'll rescind too.
Okay. It'll still accomplish that.
Yes.
Plus.
Yeah.
Okay, so you both rescinded.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Babcock Windows contract.
So, the facility task force had already made this recommendation. This is just kind of a technicality to have the contract approved. The contract amount is for $675,000, and it is to replace all of the windows in the Babcock building for the Swan School this summer. And this funding is coming out of surplus from the current year.
Yes, because I'm swamped.
Yes.
Yes, I just need a motion to approve the contract.
You gonna
as
make
it
that
was
motion?
in the drive.
I'll make the motion to, for the windows for Babcock.
Thank you, Peter. Second?
Second it.
Rennick, second. Any questions and or discussions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Wait.
Comments?
Yeah, I just, a comment on it is, I saw that contract and I'm like, holy moly. there's a lot of stuff there.
That was
A lot
part
of-
of
a
the
lot of
600,000.
language.
Yeah, there's a lot of language.
Yes, it's the same template we've been signing for EEI right along that we had reviewed previously.
Okay,
So
that's,
when
I
we
did-
sign an EEI contract, other than the attachments, it's the
That's what
same
I'm asking,
language,
because
yeah.
I can't possibly review all that.
Oh, no.
So I'm just hoping that
It's
we
been-
had it reviewed.
The original EEI contract was reviewed when we first started doing business with them.
Okay,
That's a
so you're good,
75,000.
you're good with the language? Okay.
The lawyer wrote that about 75,000.
Did people voted, but we
People voted,
didn't get, did you get to the abstentions and opposed part yet?
No.
No, okay.
No, I did not. No, the last thing I asked was were there any questions or comments?
The vote hadn't come yet.
Pardon?
We had not voted yet.
Although, any more questions or comments?
No, I'm sorry, I just.
No, don't be sorry. I did, and I think you missed it when I said it,
For
but.
those that watch this
Alright.
meeting, they're gonna be
Please run for the school board.
what is happening?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
And EEI is on right now and listening, and they said they will donate a scoreboard for the field hockey at MVU.
Wow.
Oh.
Thank you very
Because they
much.
don't want to see that come off the table.
We don't need.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Isn't that about $500,000?
That was a big,
That
big
is a
scoreboard.
I can't go that far, guys.
Well, how nice of them.
They said they'll donate it. We put it in, they donate the
That
board.
we're getting that paid.
What is it you want now, Toby?
Right there.
Okay, so next is principal renewals information. Julie.
We're just notifying the board that it's the time of year we're gonna be sending letters of intent to our principals for their renewal because the statutory deadline is February 1st. So we're just informing the board that we are asking everyone back.
I would hope so. We don't have time for another six.
So will you have you'll have the replies by February 1st, is that what you're saying?
I believe we have usually 10 days.
No.
So do we, all right, so question is, do you just notify them that they will be getting a contract?
Yes.
That's, okay.
If we don't notify them
They have it.
by February 1st, they have it anyway. So we're just notifying
Oh.
you that we're doing that.
Okay.
We do a letter of intent because it helps us sometimes, especially given budget challenges and volatility. We often don't determine contracts amounts for non-union professionals until a little bit later. And if somebody at that time says, I'm not interested, that's not particularly helpful. So we really want to try and get folks to let us know whether their intent is to return.
So the letter will state when you'd like a reply by?
Yes. Bonnie's put this into practice for several years, but we thought we would just add it as a notification to the board.
It's good. Some principals may not want that, particularly people that
Well,
are seeking
it's
other
a law.
jobs.
They
It works,
put that
it
in
cuts
the
both
law.
ways. We took testimony on that bill one time, and I thought everybody would be excited that, like, notify them, and there were people that were against it saying, oh, no. If you're a principal of a school and you're driving 50 miles or 100 miles, living over the week, and you're waiting for something to open up closer to home, and you've gotta make a commitment, well, we did it anyway. I think it's very good. That should go.
Is it a commitment yeah, he's shaking his head, like, I can tell you that, yeah, my intent is to stay, but I get another job, peace out.
There's
Like,
no
there's
such
no
thing.
EPA's
legal.
opinion on that letter is it's not.
No such thing as a commitment, really, when
No.
push comes to shove.
Okay.
But a straight face test,
Make sure.
it's a, you know,
A teacher-
I want to know
a
ahead
teacher
of
can
time.
buy one from getting a job.
Committed the other.
Yes.
Right. We're committed, yes.
Right.
Superintendents don't have that same protection, do they?
February 1st. I
So,
think that's next on your agenda. Coincidentally, Mr.
Who's gonna
Mayor.
write that letter?
Wait, we meet again
it's
on
already
Monday.
written. Okay, so the next is the superintendent contract.
Julie, do you need a motion on that?
No.
Okay.
Superintendent contract renewal, possible finding for executive session.
So when we get there, we'll make that finding. You don't have to do that now, because you have future board meeting and that's it.
Would it be appropriate to move, Julie's, maybe you want executive session, but to move, then the chair notify the superintendent of schools that should be granted employment for the ensuing year? Does that cover the base, or do you want?
You don't have to go to an executive
Yeah, we don't have to go
No,
to
I'm not, I'm
executive
just,
session.
that's what I'm saying, without executive session, I would make the motion that the clerk or the clerk and chair of the board notify the superintendent that she is being offered employment for the ensuing year, or year parens S, year or years, whatever. That's a possible motion.
To sign the letter of intent.
Yeah,
You can definitely make that. Would you like to
yeah,
make?
that's my motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'm sticking with it.
I'll second. Wait, did somebody already say that?
So close.
Ooh, you were.
Sorry.
Nope, Megan, you got it, you got it, you got it. So Dawn and then Megan, and any discussion?
Is this year to year?
This is just a letter of intent, this is just us, I'm just gonna sign a piece of paper saying that the board has a letter of intent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not, we'll decide that
10
at
years
contract
or
time.
whatever, life.
Yeah.
That's okay. By statute, it's only 5.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
And just no executive session.
Future agenda items, MVU behavioral
I
data,
was gonna tell Julie.
budget communications, district attendance work, Vermont cap results.
Someday we get to share those.
Next, well, actually,
We have a special board meeting now scheduled for the Swanton Central School Library, Monday, January 29th at 6:30.
6:30.
6:30.
Special facilities meeting on Thursday.
6:30 at superintendent's office.
Yep. Central.
And then next month's meeting, February 6th at MVU. That one's at MVU.
I can't keep track.
And the February meeting it is back-to-back because of the February break, so it is the first, it's one of the months where we have it, the meeting on the
So we
first
do
and the
second
third.
and fourth, or second, it's
Right.
inconvenient, and go back to the first and third, and we just.
Yes.
I'm just there at the same
Did you
time,
catch
every
that?
time,
Yeah, that is.
6:30 or 7.
except for Monday, 6:30, because I ran it.
Wow.
Signature.
Meetings now and then, sometimes more often.
To adjourn the meeting?
Oh, to adjourn the meeting, yeah.
Knows how I feel.
That's not, it's fine. It's okay. Take a joy.
That's why there's 2 people in between us.
It's
I know
dangerous.
Peter liked that motion.
Yeah, I know, I'm waiting.
So moved. To adjourn.
Thank
So
you.
Toby, have you found somebody that's running for the board?
Peter's
or
the
you-
I have not heard of
I'll
anyone.
second
You
it.
got your
Thank you,
question?
Joanne.
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm done.
You're a remarkable